And welcome into the Week 7 edition of the Fantasy Football Roundtable. There's only 2 nights at this roundtable this week. Both Jeremy and Aaron have some things going on, so they cannot join us. So it's myself and SC. How you doing today, SC? How's your Saturday going?
So far, so good, man. Had a great Devi Game Day show with my man JT Holiday and then Tom Harvey Sports as well. So we just talk about some college football and players you need to watch out for. But now we're getting to the dynasty side, right? About what players or what's your team looking like? Are you a pretender or a contender at this point? And if you're one or the other, what should you start doing to get to those playoffs? We're hitting the halfway point, right? Week 14 is final week in fantasy football. So against that halfway point, so try and figure out what we're doing here to maximize your profits at the end of the season here.
Yeah, that's the goal we all have, right? To make the playoffs. Then once you're in the playoffs, is your team able to navigate it successfully? Because we do have a couple, unfortunately, still at that point of the year where we have some impact playoff buys. How our teams with the Washington Commanders or Baltimore Ravens, how are those teams which have some high-powered weapons? We look at Jaden, we look at Lamar, look at Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, those guys. How are you able to manage that if you don't have a bye in the first week, right? If you're going up and you're down 3 or 4 guys. So I think overall it's a good idea. Look at your team build, know where you're at. And if you want to talk about dynasty, the pretender or contender, we'll get into it in a little bit. Just you should know at this point in the season. We're week 7, season's halfway over. I think interesting enough, Scott Fishbowl, all of our teams are projected to make it, but there's only 5 more weeks left in that regular season. So that one's coming up quick. Because once you hit week 12, it goes in. So, yeah, I think it's just going to be fun to kind of talk about and go from there.
Speaking of Scott Fishbowl, shout out all our Saheed believers, man. Sorry for that loss. He's out for the season now. Huge blow, especially because I know a lot of players, including some of us at FFU, took him higher in the draft, right? You took it. What did you take him? I won't
fifth
say
round.
Fifth,
I took him in the 5th round. Everybody's you're crazy. I was like, no, it's a good pick. It's a good pick.
It was for the time, but NFL situations happen, and now we look back. Scott Fitzgerald is different though. That's a whole different scoring setting. So you're not taking the 5th round in startups or anything like that. But in that situation, you do. But you also lost out on talent. But that's the game we play, right? You get players that are injured and stuff. So here we go.
Yes, sir. Interesting enough, I think Jeremy back on the Devon Chan train. I want to I love it. Let's go. I know he's the Mostert guy. We were talking about it. And on a ranking show we did earlier this week where I had Achan significantly higher than Mostert. He's like, you got to fix that. I was like, I don't think I'm gonna, but yeah. I think Mostert's a good buy. And if we talk about dynasty, Mostert's about as cheap as you can get for those productive running back teams, and they're getting Tua back next week. I think it's the last really opportunity to buy Mostert for pennies on the dollar before that offense looks good again, because it's been disastrous outright.
Deep question here then, because I have Kamani Vidal, so I try to get Mostert for Kamani. If I'm 6-6, which we're going to talk about. But I'm 6-6, so I'm definitely on the fringe. I can't compete. I think there's other teams that are better off than me, right? There's 8-2 teams, 7-4 teams, whatever it may be. There's teams that are stronger, but I think I'm on the verge of it. But I do need to twinkle some things. So should I try to do that?
I would say if it's your 6-6 team and you look at the top contending teams and you go down the rosters and you're significantly outgunned across the board, that one addition is really not going to make up the difference, right? So in redraft, yeah, I would happily dynasty. I think it really depends on team build. If you're not a top 4 team, it's really hard. But if you're a borderline playoff team, I don't mind swapping out Kamani Vidal for Raheem Mostert if you really want that kick, because as much as I like Kamani Vidal, it is very much a TBD. Though the upside with Kamani Vidal, if an injury happens to J.K. Dobbins, it's through the roof. Yeah. That's the one thing that worries me about that trade, just because Dobbins has never been healthy in any season he's ever played. So we're banking on a lot. He's coming off 27 opportunities, which is an insane amount. So we'll see. I don't mind doing that deal though. If your running back room's weak, right, and you need somebody, yeah, you can definitely talk me into that for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Strugger. Which leads me to appreciate you, Jeremy. Shout out FFU night there. With the running backs, in general, or actually with median, playing against the median, I highly recommend that. I think that's how you separate more so your pretenders from contenders, right? Because there's teams that are 8-2, but they lost. The weeks they lost was against the highest scoring team, and they were the second highest scoring team. So in regular leagues where you're not playing against the median, they now have 2 losses, but you reward them for still being one of the top teams in the league. So this is a way you can separate, your guys that aren't doing good from your guys that are actually doing really well and making sure they're better. The median is just the average scoring at the end of each week, and if you beat that score, you get a win. If you don't beat the score, you get a loss. So it just helps you elevate. That's why I said I'm 6-6 in this league, and we're only 6 weeks through the season. So I've been good at getting across the median as well as gain some victories as well. But then on the flip side, I've been losing. So any team that isn't played it, I definitely recommend every fantasy player trying against the median. I think especially in dynasty 12-man teams, 8-man, 10-man, you can argue not against it because teams are typically stacked with those. But 12-man, I think it helps separate for sure for them.
Yeah, and if you're going into those 8-man like leagues, the players are much more valuable on like the team because like you get one starting spot, they hold more weight. So like a Christian McCaffrey or Derrick Henry, those guys are insanely more valuable in that format because this kind of gets into the war, the wins above replacement, all that fun stuff, the nerdy stuff I like to talk about. That's where those guys really show their weight worth in gold, as opposed to if you're like a 16-team league, you need the depth. Like that's kind of the flip side. Because to your point, 18 teams, everyone's stacked. Everyone's got top 24 people across the board.
Right. Just because we're on that, I did make a trade in my 16-team league. We got some start sits here that we'll get to here in a second. But in my 18-team league, or 16, excuse me, I needed a quarterback. I think I mentioned this to y'all. I had Deshaun Watson and Will Levis. That was hurting me drastically, So I had Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, Amari Cooper, even DJ Moore as my wide receivers. This is a 1 QB league because it's 16. I ended up trading AJ Brown and Rashad White for Patrick Mahomes, Tank Bigsby, and a 3rd-round pick.
Yeah, and you said it's 16, so it's like it's 1 QB, but it's kind of more. It's like a tweener, 1 QB, like 2 QB type league, right? So like 100%.
No, it's just 1 QB. It's not super flex or anything, just single QB for it. But then at the same time, I had no quarterbacks. I just had Watson and Levis. So like that.
Yeah, no, it's you said it was 16 team, right? Like 16 team. So in that type of format, the quarterbacks, even in 1 QB, they hold more weight, right? Because you're starting more quarterbacks. So we're kind of getting into that like mid-level replacement quarterback, as opposed to like 8 and 10 team leagues. Everyone has that quarterbacks. In that league, like I value quarterbacks more just because there's more quarterbacks that are playing. So like these 1Z positions, and this gets into like the start 2 tight ends or tight end premiums, like they just become inherently more valuable. So like I'd do that for sure, especially if you have the team and the depth to do it. Yeah, like absolutely.
I like take losing AJ though, but yeah,
it's all good. That part happens, right? It's
yeah. But I had ETN, so getting Bigsby was like okay, it helps me out, right? That Bigsby's looking good. So now I gotta play the game of who should I start here, right? So
yeah, until you see it, I would just ride tank until we see other fights because who knows what's going on with ETN, right? But I think with that team specifically, like Peterson's going to get fired. So like is the new OC or the new head coach, like they're going to value tank or are they going to value ETN? We don't know, but you'll have the guy at least. So there's at least that, right?
100%. Brendan here asked a question. My team's looking pretty good this week, but if Cup is hurt, do I start Pickens or Mostert this week? Oh.
Pickens is super boom bust. It's very like they're playing the Jets, right? So I don't feel great about that matchup, particularly if he's not going up against those corners, Sauce Gardner. Like Gardner gets a lot of penalties against him. He doesn't give him any yards. Personally, I think your team build, if you need the outside shot, take Pickens. Mostert, I like his matchup against Indianapolis. Like he saw 20 opportunities last week, and he was good. So like I expect him to be a valuable piece of that offense moving forward this week. So I prefer Mostert as more of the floor play. I think Pickens is the ceiling. So it just really depends on if like you're chasing or if you have a lead. Who would you be targeting between those two?
I think Mostert. I mean, I think he's gonna get the carries. Even the thing is, even if Alshon's there, right? You have Mostert that's gonna get the goal line work, and that's where he makes his bread and butter, right? And plus, when he's healthy, whatever Miami did with him has just revived his career in general. They know how to use him, and plus, they're using their running backs in the sense where we're not having to run it. Granted, he had 19 carries last week. This is still an opportunity for him to continue to do work and continue to grow as well. So I mean, I think if he's healthy, even if Archie's healthy, I think it boosts his value up even more because now he has opportunity to come out the field, take a breather, and then go back in and get, bust out a 20-yard run. So I think most start with the quarterback situation with Pickens. I think that's rough. I want to see what it is. Is Wilson better? Potentially, but maybe it's another week with Najee Harris as well. So
Yeah, I think Wilson gives him the upside to hit some of those deep shots because he still has that in his bag of tricks, right? But yeah, it's very rough this week for that Pittsburgh offense. I would be worried. So yeah, I'm with you 100%.
So another one here. RP10 asks, does Olave value skyrocket with Shaheed out?
Not with Rattler.
Yeah.
It's just is what it is, right? He will get a ton of targets. There's no competition in that offense. It's really bad for Kamara right now. It's not going to be great for Olave, but this is the type of thing where there's no one else pushing him. So he's going to get a ton of volume. You just really need Derek Carr to come back. That's what we need because that's floor raising. Rattler, we saw it last week. It's just a disaster with that lineup front. It's really hard for rookie quarterbacks. So if Rattler's his quarterback for the next couple weeks, which looks like it is, it's going to be rough going for him. He'll get the kind of Garrett Wilson ugly volume early in the season. It'll be like that. And then if Carr comes back, I think he can give you significant upside. So yeah, it's good for overall volume. So yeah.
Leads us into, here players with target are maybe not, but with it, is Olave someone you want to target right now because of the quarterback situation?
Mm-hmm. In redraft, no. Dynasty, yes. Jeremy was talking about, we were talking about this with Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's a dynasty buy because of the dip in perceived value. I will say, for Olave, he's those numbers are very similar to Garrett Wilson across his career. He just hasn't, outside of this year, he's been better than Garrett Wilson and Drinkle. And this year, it hasn't worked out for him. He's really just falling short of expectation. But the way they're using him is really good. He's just a downfield threat, similar to Pickens. So it's going to be more up and down. But yeah, if you can get him for cheaper, yes, I think now is the time to buy Olave because he's a really good player. He still has over a 90 PFF receiving grade. It's the best in it. He's really, really good. It's just not, Rashid Shaheed's just an explosive monster. So with him out the field, I think it really boosts. He's just going to see 30+% target share. So yeah, I would target him. Redraft, it's a little bit different just because I want to get for sure production.
Would you trade Diggs for him?
Yes. In Dynasty, absolutely. Because my thought process, this is the peak sell window for Stephon Diggs. This is what I talked about on the show 2 weeks ago when Nico went out. You're getting these insane prices for him where you would not be able to get them before the injury, right? So you have this little month-long window before Nico comes back. He's going to be the guy that's the 1A or 1B alongside Tank Dell, and you see his usage. So if you can get something of substantial value, because once we get the offseason, that value craters. So yes, I would sell Stephon Diggs because if you're a contender, you don't really need Stephon Diggs. You have enough pieces where if you lose Diggs, it shouldn't hurt you. If you're that dependent on Stephon Diggs, you're not a contender, is the way I'll phrase that, because you need the pieces. So yeah, I would sell Stephon Diggs if you have him. If you want to ride it out, sure, just know the value is going to go down the moment Nico comes back.
Do you think, just speaking on the Saints as well, rumor came out that Kamara, I truthfully, I don't know if these are legit rumors or not. I haven't, the people that are posting it, I'm I don't know if I'm trusting you. But, rumors, Kamara's looking for a trade, that they're looking to rebuild. Kamara's an older back. He's down to get traded. Yeah. Is that someone, now, granted, right now you can't get Kamara he's RB1 right now, so it's going to be super hard to try to get him off. Chances are if the team has him, they're a contender, so it's going to be hard. But I guess if you're a contender, is that something that worries some to try to trade him then?
Yeah, it's going to be really hard for NFL team to trade for his contract because he's got a fat payday next year too. So they would be automatically eating unless how they structure this contract where they eat the dead cap, the Saints hold on to it, which they're not going to because they're so cap strapped. You have to take on the salary cap for Alvin Kamara. He's still getting paid decent amount throughout the rest of the year. And then it's a $10 million roster bonus. And then it's 29 total. So they would restructure his contract, do those whole things. I just don't know how you convince the NFL team to do this for a running back who's approaching 30. This is an old running back. The issues are there. You saw the inefficiencies kind of creeping with that offensive line. So I lean more Kamara as a sell for people because I'm worried about the Saints offense in general. With Rattler, we saw it against the Broncos, they couldn't do anything. And if you can't score points, or you can't do anything, he turns into an RB2 floor play. And that's not what we like to see. So going from the RB1 to kind of RB, maybe a high-end RB2, it kind of sucks for his value. So if someone's still trying to get him, I'd move off and just live with it because he's really old, right? So in Dynasty, yeah. In redraft, I'm more open to just keeping him and riding him because if he hits, the upside, right?
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. I think But if you're considering, you definitely want to keep him there. But you could also get some value. I mean, maybe
Mhm.
you can trade him to a team that's like on fringe, but they have Gibbs, and you're like, all right, well, shit, I'll do this straight up. I would do that. You're not. It's
Yeah.
not a huge one, but could it boost them up to maybe contend a little bit more? But you don't really lose value going out there and get Gibbs, right?
Yeah.
Or if you're going out there and getting maybe an Achane and just let's say packaging with Raheem, if you can get both of them for Kamara,
Yeah, I
that would
think
be massive.
in redraft for sure. Like you could do a package. I think like there's a question here about DK. Like I think you get DK plus for Kamara in redraft, and I think that's like a really good. Like I really like DK rest of the season. He's gonna go off in this game, by the way. So
Yeah.
yes, I would trade Devonta Smith for DK in all formats. The age difference isn't that great. Like you're getting a guy who's a locked in wide receiver one. His usage is really good. Where we see with Devonta Smith, he's more capped just because he's the wide receiver two in that offense. Now it's a really good offense. All the fun things are there, but like DK was this close to having a 40-point game last week. Like he was that close. So you just gotta trust the usage. It's similar to Olave. The difference is like his quarterback and like the offense is just a lot better, and everything they're calling is a lot better. So like you see the Seahawks are passing over 700 times this year. Like that's wheels up. So yeah, I would do that deal personally. Would you?
Do you? Well, mm, yeah, I would. I like DK. I think he's like you mentioned, a locked in guy. Both offenses are pretty good, so I mean, any weapon you can have for them is. But if you
Mhm.
could do that straight up, why not?
Yeah.
Um, I guess if you're worried about the emergence of JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, that could be worrisome there if he ends up coming out and being good. But even, when he was at Ohio State, the other guy still ate with him. So
Mhm.
DK's there. DK's locked in. He knows Gino. Gino and him have a chemistry together. So you love that. Devontae Smith, as you mentioned there. And then, healthy Goddard is back in there, right? And then you have Saquon Barkley getting passes out the backfield. So I do like Smith. You and they're about the same age. So yeah, I would do that. I mean, straight up, I think it's almost you get slightly better with DK, but
Mhm.
I don't think it's gonna be a massive hit for any team. I still think it's a good value for both
Yeah,
teams.
like I still like Devonta Smith, but he's like kind of like he's a more floor play to me than he is ceiling play. Just week in and
Yeah.
week out, he's gonna be a top 20 guy. It's good. I just think like by the end of the year, like we could see DK pushing into the top 10, just based on his usage in that offense and how they're throwing it an insane amount, which I don't expect the Saints to do.
Yeah. This one's here. Does Christian Watson seem undervalued to you guys? He's been hurt most of the year. Not the hamstring. Kind of nice for us
Yeah,
getting back last week.
yeah. I don't know about USC, but in redraft, like it's these wide receivers outside of Jaden Reed are freaking almost impossible to trust because they're mixing and matching. They're doing a lot of different things. Like Jaden Reed's the focal point as far as fantasy production. Watson's role is really nice. It's just super boom bust because it's been up and down. We had hopes for Romeo Dobbs. Like I guess we had hopes for Dobbs, and then we also had hopes for Dontavian Wicks. Wicks got injured. I guess Wicks is playing this week. So with all of those guys healthy, Reed's really the only one you could trust. I think. Like it's so difficult. But yeah, if you could get him for on the cheap, sure. Like it's the Jordan Love offense, and we see this with Allen Lazard. If a guy's catching touchdowns in offense, before the Devontae Adams trade, like they're valuable pieces. And I think Watson gives you like significant upside shot, even though if his floor is like super zero. So I'm fine taking super like boom bust assets like that and just taking bets on them. I don't mind it. I'll chase the upside.
All right, to pivot on the opposite side, I'm all off Watson. I mean, I've never been a fan of him just being North Dakota State. Shout out my Bearcats at Sam Houston State. But with Watson, just because what you said, that boom bust, I think it's good if you want that. But I think he's one of those players you take advantage of when that boom happens, and you try to go sell to a team that's wide receiver needy and try to get someone that maybe Watson goes out there and has a 25-point game. Maybe go get Olave. Try to. I don't necessarily think you can, but if you could try, why not? It never hurts to try. Go after that and get someone like um possibly a Mooney who's the two. You can get Mooney plus for Watson. Watson's boom bust with less targets, around Mooney. So he's definitely getting it. So different things like that. Maybe a Tank Dell as well you could possibly do. So I would definitely pivot off him as soon as he booms because I think that's exactly what he is. I don't think he's a consistent wide receiver enough to ever be a consensus top 15. He'll have his weeks, but I
Yeah.
think that's the best you're getting of him is just getting those kind of weeks there for him. So
Yeah, you need him to be healthy. Like his snapshot and everything has to get a little bit better, but it's just kind of is what it is. So yeah, I'm with you.
this one's really interesting. So we gotta talk about this. I'm assuming this is redraft.
Yeah, it's
It
got to be
could,
redraft because you would get absolutely just the door slammed on you if this is dynasty.
yeah. Trade JT and Bijan for Saquon and Pollard in a redraft with it. 100%. I'm all in on Pollard rest of the season. I'm actually trying to buy
Really
him,
good.
but I can't trade Jacobs. I Jacobs for Pollard is something me and someone are going back and forth on.
Yeah, that's fine.
Jacobs,
Yeah.
but Jacobs has more value
Mm-hmm.
in Dynasty. In
Yeah.
redraft, Pollard for sure, but in Dynasty, I think Pollard just he's just one of those players that the name doesn't sit well with players, so he's hard to move off
Mm-hmm.
of. So
He's
if
got
you
the
have
stank.
any kind of bad season or anything, you're stuck with him. Jacobs, he can have a bad season, but yet people still know the name very well. That he's
Yeah.
still young, he's locked into a contract. They're good for him. So Pollard rest of the season, I think he's a locked in RB1 rest of the season. That is really the only thing Tennessee offense has going for them right now. So I love him. And Tyjae Spears is a ghost when it's Pollard on the field.
Yeah.
So Saquon too. I mean, you lock him in as well. They had their bye week also, so he's locked in there, right? So I would definitely do this on redraft. What do you think?
Well, yeah, and particularly for JT. JT's really good, but he will not, with Anthony Richardson, he does not get the passing down usage, and he's really never been a high-end target earner, unlike Saquon, who's done that before. So if we're breaking this down in redraft, I much prefer Saquon to JT. Bijan, I still prefer over Pollard, but like I 100% get the mindset of taking Pollard over him just because he's been really good. But in Dynasty, yeah, he has the like what we call it the stank on him because he had a really bad season last year, right? Where everyone's like, "Oh, this is a year for Tony Pollard," face planted, and everyone's like, "I don't even want this guy," right?
Okay.
So the time to get Tony Pollard was in this offseason when people just didn't want him. Like I thought Tajay Spears was going to take the job from him. Obviously, I was very wrong in that situation, right? Because Pollard looks the guy that's completely that he was 2-3 years ago. So yeah, like I don't mind going to that side because you have the JT situation where he's coming back from an injury. It's a high ankle sprain. He's probably going to struggle coming off of the high ankle sprain, right? He's going to be inefficient a little bit. So yeah, like I probably would just do Saquon and Pollard and redraft and just roll with it, just because even though it doesn't have the quote unquote perceived value, I'm just trying to win in redraft. I don't really care. So like if you can do this deal, sure, go for it. Just know that like the weight Bijan carries, like you could probably turn Bijan into like pretty much anyone just because people know the name, they love him.
Yeah. JT's out again this week, but
yeah,
I agree. I think Bijan is just one of those household names. He's what Barkley was, figure. I mean, Barkley still is. So, but I get it. I mean, I think that's where you're going more so is rest of season here rather than Dynasty. In Dynasty, I hope you're not doing that, just because the Saquon and Pollard are rather older, so you can definitely get more value in that sense.
I mean, you would just for Bijan alone, you would need like Saquon plus Pollard to like even get entertained. Mm-hmm. And like if you have Bijan, I don't think you must do that. I would much rather if I'm trading Bijan in Dynasty, like I'm looking for one of the high-end wide receivers. Like I'm going to get Nico Collins, one of those guys, right? Like I'm going to live with that.
Yeah. This was this. Is Jameis still worth waiting for Watson to be benched, but the Browns don't seem interested in benching him. I think the NFL investigation is a lot to consider here. What they're doing. Apparently, Goodell said they're still investigating it, even though Watson settled outside of the last issue that he had off the field as well. So I think Jameis is still worth holding because I really Stefanski is the one that brought in Watson, so he's stuck with him. That contract is horrendous. Mm-hmm. So I think he's doing everything in his power, really, just to say, no, this is our guy. This is who we invested in. It's really just not to make him look like a fool. However, I think right now the Browns are hoping the NFL does something to get them out of it. But I think for the time being, Watson's their guy, and if anything, they're tanking and they get someone else next year. But I think they don't want to look like fools, so they're saying no. Watson is our best chance to win, so we're keeping him here. Maybe with the Amari Cooper's out, we see something different. Maybe with Nick Chubb potentially coming back, we see something different. But what are your thoughts? Are you holding Jameis here?
Yes, because at some point, like they started the official like fire sale because they're listing like Zadarius Smith. They traded Amari Cooper. You can see the writings kind of on the wall. Cleveland's like, all right, this is clearly not working. At some point, they're going to turn to Jameis this year, so I'm fine holding him in like really only in super flex leagues. In one QB leagues, I don't care about Jameis because like he's not going to have value. He's really not going to give you production. It's just the hope is that it's for like David Njoku, it's for Nick Chubb, it's for those guys, right? Like that's the really big hope. So if you're in super flex dynasty leagues, yeah, like I'm not going to drop a Jameis Winston unless you're picking up an impact producer, like just because. Once a quarterback's playing, like they immediately hold value. So I'll also hold him. But outside of that, in like redraft, one QB leagues, I don't really care for Jameis. So the Superflex Dynasty, yes. The rest of them, for me personally, it's kind of just like, you could stream them on, like, pick them up if you desperately need a quarterback, right? Because there's always enough guys in redraft available.
A trade I was debating on was get Rico Dowdle and Austin Eckler, but I lose Judy, Kamani, and Deshaun.
Is that Dynasty or what are we talking about?
Yeah, Dynasty.
I mean, yeah, you're actually getting someone who's buying Watson. It's like,
well, I mean, it's a package deal. He has famous. He has famous. So,
what are you getting? You're getting who?
Dowdle and Eckler.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. Like, you have, it's a very short window with Dowdle. I'll say that. So just know it's going to go year to year. Same thing with Eckler, like year to year.
Yeah.
There's not much upside on the other side. Like, Kamani Vidal's the upside shot. Yeah, I don't mind that deal if you want to get some production because Eckler is going to be a consistent producer in that offense. So yeah, like that's what I call like a contending move for a rebuilding move. Someone just taking assets they're going to take bets on. If you're taking the production this year on a contending team, yeah, go for it. Like, it makes sense.
Yeah, that'll be this is there. Appreciate you, Brandon. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Have daily content coming out in the fantasy football universe. But I appreciate you coming on and joining us. Kenneth with another one here. Just traded Olave for Devontae and Dynasty. What a consistency feel okay about it, but now Shaheed out has been second guessing it. Yeah, but injuries happen, right? So you could have planned for that, right? You don't want that to happen, so they happen. Olave should see the hyper targets, but even with Carr there, I mean, I think you got the weapon that's in a higher powered offense. So I choose Devontae over Olave. I think Devontae has more of an upside to be a top 15 wide receiver at this season than Olave. So
yeah, I think there's a really big range of outcomes with Olave. Devonta Smith, it's much more like slim down. You're not ever going to be a high end like top 6 wide receiver. Like, that's just not in the cards for him.
Yeah.
So if you want to shoot the moon for Olave and Dynasty, but like as a contender, like 100% getting going Devonta Smith because you're taking away some of that risk with all the uncertainty in the Saints situation right now because there is a lot going on. That offensive line is broken. They have a rookie quarterback starting. We don't know if like the way the season's going, if Rattler does turn it around, start looking good, they might just keep Rattler, right? Because they can figure out a way to get rid of Carr, even though he's got a long contract. It's just, yeah, there's just a lot of risk with the Olave side. So if you're contending, sure. And like on the flip side, if I'm rebuilding, like this type of move I make, I go get Olave because I know the points are going to be there, but the long-term potential upside is higher. So like, yeah, like this contender rebuild, like I would flip these guys.
For sure. I agree. I think it was a good move.
Yeah.
Slavsky, appreciate you joining. 12-man PPR, 2 flex starters, Kyler, Henry, Robinson, CD, Higgins, McBride, Wandell, Devontae, Ben Spears, Dowdle, Allen, Wicks, Waddle.
Like the squad.
Yeah, very nice team. Are you asking for 2 flex? I don't know. Well, he's saying it goes on. So drop Wicks for 1 below. McLeod, Bateman, Leggett, Ridley, Tucker, Tolbert, Coleman, Whittington, Madison.
Yeah, like I'd be fine taking a few of these guys shots on like Leggett, sure, Tolbert. Ridley, it's rough, but like Ridley by far is like the guy that's gonna be the most consistent, and I say that with kind of a grain of salt because he's so up and down. He could be Jalen Warren. Keon Coleman, no thank you. Zamir White, no thank you. Whittington, no thank you. I think it really comes down to Jalen Warren if you want to running back. Wide receivers, my options would be Leggett, Tolbert, or Bateman and Ridley. So you really sort through this. I had Ridley still the highest, but who would be the wide receiver you would be targeting, or would it be Jalen Warren?
I think I would hold it because Ridley. Apparently, the coach came out and said we need to get him the ball more.
Mm-hmm.
He's been talking about targets, lack of targets, so they're like we need to get him, find ways to get him open. Maybe it's just getting screen passes. So if they can utilize him like that, maybe we see a little bit of upside. It's just been horrendous there, so that gets me off of him. Leggett is probably the one I'm targeting here, just because we're seeing that usage come out. If he's healthy and on the field, he's going there. So I know Deontay Johnson's there as well, but Leggett I think is a rising asset to the Carolina Panthers there. So I would definitely go get him. Trey Tucker, I do like, especially with Devontae Adams out, but quarterback situation as well. Tolbert too. But again, Dallas, I just don't even know. I try to follow our guy, Jay Chuck. He talks about the Cowboys all the time, but it's hard to watch Dallas right now. I mean, even CD is having, hit his gaze where it's like, man, I don't know what this is. So I would say Leggett probably if you need to drop Wicks, but I think you can also wait a week to see what happens because Wicks can also have a blowout week. You never know. So
yeah, that's the thing with the Wicks. He's kind of this roster fodder because he continually has that alluring upside, right? Where it's like, oh man, it could hit. So if you need production, I'd actually probably prefer to go Ridley of all these guys. But I think Bateman's the best NFL wide receiver of this group, and he looks like the wide receiver, like the round one wide receiver that came out back in 2020. Like I still have hope for him. So it's just tough being the ancillary piece attached to Rashad Bateman or to Lamar Jackson. It's gonna be very up and down. So if you want the outside shot, I think Leggett and Ridley are the most likely, even though it pains me to say Ridley at this point.
Yeah. I know you're a tank guy, so this one's a good question here. Need RB help, loaded at wide receiver, half PPR. Would you trade Deontay for Ramondre or Tank Dell for Rico? Oh,
I mean,
I don't know. I don't think I'll trade any.
No, I would roll with Deontay. I like Tank a lot, and if you need running back production, you can at least entertain the thought of Rico, but the offense is so bad. To your point,
yeah.
If we're talking dynasty, like give me Tank Dell immediately. But Deontay is leading the NFL in end zone targets among all wide receivers. Like it's not a messed up stat. That's a real thing. Like his role in that offense, as long as he plays, he's going to be like a borderline top 12 wide receiver. I think Tank, there's a lot more boom bust there, so really wants to shoot the upside, but it's half PPR, hurts Deontay a little bit just because he gets so many targets. But yeah, I would still prefer Deontay. But if you want to shoot the moon with Tank and Rico, you can do it.
I think with Tank here, because Nico's out, he offers more value here, so you can get someone possibly bigger than Rico. I would go potentially getting maybe Connor. I don't know if they're going to trade him off that, but I mean, if this is redraft, probably not. In Dynasty, I think you can pull that off, which would help you a lot because I think Connor's a locked in top RB, even with Trey Benson sitting behind him. Maybe you can go after just thinking off the top. I mean, I'm not going to say Najee. That's one of my guys, though. But, with Rico, it's just hard because I do like him. But again, this is someone where the offense doesn't look great. So as you said, you're going to ride the wave. And I feel long-term Tank may help you. Being in redraft, I guess you take it with Tank Dell for him. I wouldn't trade Deontay for Ramondre. I mean, I just don't know, especially with May back there. He's going to take some some rushing yards away from Ramondre as well. So I wouldn't do that. I think Deontay has more value than that. But Tank for Rico, I think you go after someone a little bit higher. Again, try to get a James Conner. Try to get a Joe Mixon, maybe, if you can go after that.
If you can get Mixon, smash that. Like, Mixon's got 27 points in 2 games that he's played healthy. Like, his role and the fact that offense is doing a lot of under center, it works so much well instead of shotgun stuff. Like, Mixon's not good at shotgun. Under center, Mixon gets time to kind of ramp up and go, and he just looks so much better. So, yeah, Mixon, like, I have Mixon as, like, a borderline top 6 running back rest of the year. Like, I love Mixon. So, if you could get Mixon for Tank Dell, like, yeah, I would do that. I don't think you can, but it's worth trying, right? Yeah. But I would not move Deontay for Ramondre. Like, that just seems like such a downgrade. I'm not going to do
that. Yeah. Appreciate you joining in, Ken. Christy, would you flex Trey Tucker, Tyrone Tracy, or Christian Watson? I think we both have the same answer, but who's your thoughts?
Tracy.
Yeah.
They can't, even though Singletary is coming back from injury, like Dayball said, like, no, like Tracy's going to have a bigger role in this offense. And it's kind of like we talk about putting the genie back on the bottle. Like, this is the phrase we've gone to a bunch this last week with Tyrone Tracy. Like, he looks really good, and he gives that offense a totally different, like, element, right? Like, he gives them more upside than Singletary is kind of a standard, just a traditional running back. He has the upside and the athletic juice to kind of raise the offense a little bit more with, like, Malik Nabers. So I love Tyrone Tracy. Everything we've seen from him looks really good. He has the opportunity. It's really hard to take away all that role from him now, right? Like, obviously, he's not going to be sitting, like, 80% opportunity share. But if he's at, like, 50, 60%, get some big plays, like, I think he's more valuable than the rest of these guys.
He looked better than Singletary too, so I think that's hard for them to just say, okay, we're gonna run you back when you elevated the offense more so, right? So especially with Nabers back, if anything, Singletary allows Tracy to get a breather. So I think you want to chase the upside. I love Tucker, Watson, boom bust, but I think Tracy, until he tells you not to, I think you just continue to go with him there. Going back to my years, no one likes to trade in redraft. Yes, we know. Waiver wires in, yes, that happens. Might need to move to Dynasty. Hey, 100%, man. Dynasty is the way to go. Another one here. Would you trade Connor in a 25 third for Pollard and a 25 fourth? Pollard's playoff schedule looks nice in a couple of years.
It is nice. I mean, the weird thing about Pollard is, like, if you think he's going to be locked in because he signed a multi-year contract, right? So he's going to be there for multiple years. So I don't like you're trading a third and a fourth. I don't care about third and fourth round picks. Like, third gives you a better shot of hitting like 8%. Fourth, just completely worthless. I don't value fourth at all. So, like, this is basically if you just prefer Pollard straight up to Connor, give him a third. That's fine. I don't really care. But yeah, they're very similar. I think the offensive upside is much greater in Arizona. Just like with Kyler, if they can figure it out, I think it raises the floor and ceiling for Connor. It's just Pollard's been really, really good, and I actually think Connor's been really good too. So I would do this deal if you think Pollard's an upgrade. That's the one way I do this deal. Otherwise, I just keep Connor. So where are you at on these two, SC?
Like I said, man, I'm all in on Pollard the rest of the season. So even I think Dynasty too, because I know they drafted Benson, right? So that makes it a little bit different. That's worrisome. When does Benson come in here? You're giving the third, so you're moving back a little bit. But I mean, running back class is deep. You can get some studs in the fourth as well. So I think I do take this. But to be Pollard's a buy for me right now. You know, it's just some of these running backs, your James Conner, your Josh Jacobs, you know, are you wanting to move on them? James Conner is a locked in, you know, our top RB for that offense. And if Marvin Harrison's out, that just allows him to be even more so in the offense. Where Pollard, he is the only thing in the offense right now. You know, even if they get really the ball more, it's Levis we're not trusting. It's Mason Rudolph we're not trusting, or whoever I think it's Mason Rudolph. You know, those quarterbacks we're not trusting. So Pollard is the offense, and he's gonna get the work. So for me, I would do it as dynasty coach picks, right? So I would do this. I think Pollard has.
Yeah, to your point,
I think they're gonna keep him next season. You know, we've already seen them get someone else next year. Tajay Spears was supposed to be the guy. They brought in Pollard because he wasn't. So I think you go there and get that there.
Yeah, I think there's the one thing about Tennessee that works more in Arizona is like if this season gets out of hand, which it's almost out of hand, like they could shift what they're doing completely and try something different. Where it's like the second half of the year, they're just trying to build the young guys up, and Tajay Spears could get more run in that scenario. I think it's more likely than the Trey Benson comes along because I just don't think Trey Benson's that good also. So yeah, I think there's a little bit more risk with Pollard, but if you like the upside of Pollard and the second half schedule, like yeah, go for it. Like this is a fine trade that's not going to hurt you either way. Like I don't think this like crater either one of these two guys.
Yeah, for sure. Addison or Wardy full PPR from Aldo.
I have Addison higher.
I think
I have Addison at 55. Whatever. Yeah, I have him 12 spots above Worthy in like fresh checking. So I prefer Addison. I really like the matchup. Like they're going up against Detroit, and I think this is a really good matchup for Addison because they're talking about this. I'm curious to see if they continue to play man at the rate they're playing at the Lions because they lose Aiden Hutchinson. I wonder if they employ more zone in this game or not. I'm not 100% sure if that happens, but they're near the league leaders in man coverage. And if that's the case, you can't shift that much coverage with Justin Jefferson there, right? So I took the over on that Jordan Addison reception, but it was like 3.5. I was like, yeah, smash that. Like I think he's much more likely to produce for you than Xavier Worthy. I think Worthy's like the moon upside shot, but we need to see it a little bit. Where are you at on these two?
Addison. I like Worthy. I mean, he's probably the one, right? Or I mean, I don't know. Juju's been looking good too. So Worthy, I think he's again with the boom bust. I think his size and speed, they're not using him as they should in the offense much so. They're trying to get him open and just finding big play opportunities for him. Addison's gonna get targets. I mean, we've seen him do it with Jefferson. It may not be nothing stellar for you, like you on the boom weeks for Worthy, it's gonna be better than Addison, but I think consistency wise, Addison's the way to go.
It's a much riskier bet, it seems like, with Worthy.
For there. Triple Hunts. Welcome in. Dubs or Tutu Atwell for my wide receiver too.
If Cooper Kupp plays, I'm going to take Dubs. If Cooper Kupp does not play, I will take Tutu Atwell. That is what it comes down to because without Cooper Kupp, it gives Tutu Atwell to kind of be a more centralized focal point of this offense. When Cooper Kupp comes back, it kind of puts pieces back into play where Demarcus Robinson can kind of play the ancillary piece, so could Tutu Atwell, but like all the targets just go straight to Cooper Kupp. Like that's the offense flows through him. So I think Dubs is the safer play, but if you want the upside, I think it's 2-2. So just for me, it really comes down to Kupp if he plays or not. Where you at?
Right. Well, here's a follow-up question because I agree with what you're saying, but also Triple says, and BTJ, Chase Brown, Chubb, Juju, or Wardy for my plex. Appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Appreciate you coming in.
Thanks, Triple.
I think Brian Thomas should be your 2.
Yes.
And then you have Chase Brown as the flex. Is what I would do.
Yeah, like I would much prefer to start BTJ. I think Juju's a really good play this week. Like as we saw it in like the week after the injury, like Juju was a focal point of that offense. So if I'm choosing between Chiefs wide receivers, I'm going Juju over Worthy just because we know his role. It's much easier to produce for fantasy. You don't even have to be that good of a wide receiver. And he's not that good of a wide receiver, but the role is sweet. He can do that. He's always been a good slot wide receiver. Like, that's never been a problem for him. Chubb, I'm not doing Chubb this week. Like, I'm waiting to see with Chubb. Yeah, and like I think Chase Brown's a really good play. It really comes down to the Zach Moss situation. That's what worries me with Chase Brown. So I would go BTJ, and then I would probably actually do Juju or Chase Brown. I think consensus is gonna have Chase Brown above Juju, but like I really like Juju this week.
That's fair. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
It's also not PPR, so just yards. Yeah.
And Chase Brown, we know Zach Moss came back from injury, so I'm gonna take that back. Actually, I do like Chase Brown, but we know Moss was coming off of injury, so he might get more work this game than he did last, and that could definitely push Brown down. Either way, I'm looking at both those running backs. I actually just acquired Moss, so I'm hoping he gets some playing time. Chase Brown or Tyrone Tracy.
Similar
both things happen, right? So,
who do you like more?
I Tracy, man. I mean, going back to what we said earlier, until he tells us no, God continue starting him, right? I think that's just the way it has to go there.
They're still playing Cleveland, and Cleveland can be like the defense is not bad, but like I'm still gonna roll with Tracy above him just because I like Tracy. I'm not as worried about the Philadelphia defense; they have struggled, so I think it's the more likely that Tracy can get the kind of the receiving role in this game. That's where I worry about Chase Brown. He's starting to get those third down snaps and pass protection stuff. He's starting to get that, but like. If Moss is fully healthy again, which I don't know if he is or not, I just think, it's a tough one. I have Tracy slightly above Brown. I'll just say that.
Yeah, agreed. Nino, thanks for joining in. Dobbins or Cooks rest of the season. I think
it should be Cook, but Dobbins is pushing him.
Yeah, I mean, it's really how much do you believe in Dobbins, right? Do you think Dobbins is going to stay healthy? If that worries you, Cook. But if you think Dobbins, hey, he looks like a monster, he's fully healthy, then Dobbins. But I think Cook is the safer bet. Being in that offense too. Even though I know Ray Davis looked good as well, but Cook's healthy. Cook is the guy there. So
yeah, I'm still a Cook guy. So until I see a little bit more from Dobbins, like if we're using Dobbins that rate where he's getting 27 opportunities a game, like good luck. Like he's going to be an RB1. I just don't know how likely that is because he's going to wear down. And then you get the injury on the top of it, which worries me with Dobbins. So yeah, I'm Cook, but you could go Dobbins.
They also follow up with a QB advice: Drake May or Jacksonville, or just keep Kyler in versus LSU. The game in the UK always scares me, but Caleb proved me wrong, and Caleb balled out against a horrible Jacksonville defense. Now May is going there, but Jacksonville also stayed in the UK, so that's very worrisome there. But
it's tough.
Yeah,
the vibes are pretty bad with Kyler right now. I will say that offense is struggling. Drake May finally gave the Patriots something where they can grasp onto. It's like, he's what we call a floor to ceiling raising quarterback. He's good. This is why we talked about in the offseason why we really like Drake May as a bet. I know Jeremy was like, because he's got the Patriots fan bias, he's like, I don't want to do Drake May. I'm like, he's good. We'll see how this goes. The matchup is a lot better for Drake May. I do not like the matchup for Kyler. I still have Kyler above him, but I am also tempted to play Drake May. I have Drake May as a borderline top 12 guy this week. I have Kyler at like quarterback 11, so they're right there. I'm worried about this Arizona offense, man. They just haven't figured it out. They've had like 2 good games. Outside of that, it's just been so up and down. And like the Marvin Harrison Jr. thing, I guess he's playing. That's nice. So we'll see. I'm kind of hesitant on that. If Harrison does not play, which it looks like he is, I'm going to go Drake May. But if Harrison plays, I'll probably go Kyler. Even though this matchup is sweet, it's a tough one with Drake May. Like I'm really big on Drake May, but we're talking about a top 12 quarterback at this point. So it's close. That's where I'm at on him. I'll at least entertain this. Would you go Kyler or are you gonna go Drake?
I want to say Kyler, man, but it really is scary that I think I take the shot on May. I think May can have a bad game. I wasn't a May guy really, but the matchup screams go May there. So I think I go there, but I will say if you are looking to get tickets, to these games, make sure you go to SeatGeek. You FF Universe promo code, you do get $20 off on your first order. So if you are in the UK or you're going to the Chargers and Cardinals game, use SeatGeek, FFU Universe, $20 off that first order. We do have that there with it as well. With that though, question then, because you talk about the Cardinals offense. is it if you're able to pivot off McBride, would you do that to try to get some assets there, or is McBride still a locked in person?
He's locked in. Like he's top 2-3 tight end for me. Like he's the one piece I like have basically zero concern with because he's featured. His role in that offense is really good. I'm not worried about McBride. He's the one piece I trust. The way they use him, everything works out. So yes, but you better have another damn good tight end if you're trading McBride because I don't want to go into the Dalton Schultz range of tight ends. Like that just sounds awful. I don't want to do that. So I'll take one of the few like high impact tight ends. But yeah, if you want to move him in dynasty, sure you can. But in tight end premium leagues, like I'm just gonna just ride with McBride for the next like 5 years because I think he's a really good tight end. He's attached to Kyler. I know Kyler struggled, but like the upside is significant with him. His target share, everything looked great. I think he's just one of the best tight ends in the NFL. So I really don't want to, but you could do it if you get a really good package. Like if you move him into like an impact wide receiver stuff, sure.
Could you pivot off him for Bowers? Would you try to do that?
I don't think anyone's gonna like. Yeah, you got to add to get to Bowers. I mean, it's the same tier for me, so I'm fine just keeping him. Like I don't because Bowers like that offense sucks right now. It's not good, but he's producing. So I think both of them like the offensive floor is pretty low. I just think the offensive floor is higher in Arizona, and his ability to get touchdowns, which is going to be the thing for Bowers. Like that's gonna be the hardest part of that offense. Like I think he can get more touchdowns too. So like. I still have McBride in that same tier. Like you would just need to pay me for either one of those guys to like move off of them, if that makes sense.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I think there's tons of there for McBride. So if you're not, and he's youthful, so even if you're not competing, he's still an asset you can keep there. Sal, thanks for joining in. Starting Mason against KC, Smitty against the Giants, or Addison versus the Lions. Smitty?
So like the Giants, like I like Mason, but this Kansas City matchup scares the crap out of me. And like I don't know how healthy he's going to be. That's the thing that worries me.
For sure.
So usually I would prefer the running back in the situation, a guy that's knowing volume. We just don't know. And Kansas City's defense is really, really good. Like running backs do not have the most success against them in the world. The success rate and all that fun stuff. So I have Smith the highest of this group, but I would say Smith, Mason, Addison. How I have them. Like where do you fall on these three?
I like Smith as well. Mason's nice, but you brought up with the KC defense there, but Smitty, I think it'd be different if the Giants secondary just isn't that great. So I mean, but with them having AJ Brown as well, I think that just opens up where I think it's Deontay Banks, if I'm not mistaken, is one of their top cornerbacks there. Pinnock in the back. So I think Smitty can, get some underneath opportunities and just beat them out right there too. Addison versus Lions, I don't necessarily want to play that. The only guy I'm really playing in this matchup for the Vikings is Jefferson, just because I know he's their top guy. The Lions have a tough defense, so I don't know how much of that.
Against the run, yes. Like I don't want to play the running back. Again, they're not good against wide receivers. It's kind of like similar to Baltimore. It's a pass funnel because like no one wants to run against them. They're gonna I actually like Addison a lot. I just think Smith is more centralized piece of that offense. So and it's a really good matchup against the Giants. Like to your point with Mason, San Francisco is like a bottom 6 rush EPA defense, or sorry, Kansas City is a bottom 6 rush EPA defense. So I worry about Mason this week coming off the injury. And this matchup sucks. So I'm fine going with Smith. And I really like Addison. He's top 28 wide receiver for me this week, but I have Smith top 20.
That's fair. That's fair. Andrew, thanks for joining in. Fellas, Higgins or Tyreek?
Higgins.
Flex, my wide receivers are Amon-Ra, Reed, Higgins, Tyreek. RBs are Kyron, Cook, Hunt, Tracy, and Bucky. So, yeah, Higgins. And the flex, yeah.
Yeah, like the over-under passing yards for the Miami Dolphins is 183. Like, I don't want to do the Tyler Huntley experience. Even, like, I get it. The Indiana matchup's super juicy. But, like, Higgins can still get there. And, like, he has Joe Burrow, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, it's just so much safer. Now, when Tua comes back, it'll be Tyreek's season once again. But, I'm with you. I'm going Higgins.
Yeah, and I think even over your running backs, I mean, you're starting Kyron and Cook, I assume. And then you're starting Amon-Ra, Reed. So, yeah, I would go Higgins in that flex spot for sure. And that's not, again, just what you hit on the money. When Tua's back, he'll all day. But when he's not there, I just worry about that. It's going to be a running game. Start Mostert or All-Chain over Hill at this point right now. So, kicker or Boswell? Boswell. Let me double check these rankings.
I mean, the Rikers got a really good matchup. Like, this is going to be one of the highest scoring games in the NFL. Like, it's the Minnesota Dallas, or sorry, Minnesota Detroit. Like, I want to be invested on kicker in that game. So I think I think Riker's like a consensus top 5 kicker this week. I'm gonna go with him over Boswell because Pittsburgh and New York, like that game's gonna be rough. So he could get there with field goals. I just don't know if he has as many opportunities as the way. So I think Reichert's the better bet personally. Are you with me in that, or are you going Boswell?
Yeah, I mean, really depends how you're doing the scoring too, because I think if it's field goals, like I love the Scott Fishbowl scoring. If I have kickers, I'm going to that because it's points per yard, right? So 0.1 per yard, so every 10 yards is a point, rather than just like a 5-point, 50-yard field goal, whatever it may be. So depending on that scoring, if it's based on the distance, like you're just getting off that, I think Boswell has more opportunity there to get higher points, just because I don't know if Pittsburgh's able to get it down the field as they want to. But if it's not, then I would go Riker there for y'all as well. Let's see, Auden or Henry? Henry.
Yes.
I think.
Well, I mean, like
it's scary for me.
The Baltimore defense is a really tough test. Now they get torched on the outside against wide receivers. Tight end is not so great. It's the same kind of tier of tight ends where like you need one of these to find the end zone. I think Henry has a decent shot with Drake May as his quarterback now. Like I don't mind Henry, and it's just like he doesn't have freaking Chris Godwin and Mike Evans like pulling all the targets out of that offense, right? So I think, and Odwin's never been a target runner. Like he's always just been a routes run guy who's running all the wind sprints because he can't get any targets. So it's close. Like I guess Henry, but you could go Auden. I don't. It's kind of just like this tier tight ends kind of sucks. Is the way I look at it.
I have Henry at 14 and Auden at 15, so flip a coin at that point. So flip a coin there. But yeah, I mean Henry, I think you're shooting for upside on a touchdown there. Auden just has more competition where Henry could be featured. So I have CD on bye this week and Taylor out. My team is Mason, Chase Brown, Higgins, Smitty, Kraft, McConkey, and Terry. Be trade advice to either upgrade McConkey or Brown flex RB.
Yeah, like I like McConkey, but in redraft it's tough because he's like barely a top 30 wide receiver. Terry's dope. Like I like Terry a lot. You got Devonta. Yeah, like I'm packaging one of this Higgins, Smith, and Terry. I'm trying to tier up from one of those guys because you have Mason, you have Brown. So I would package whoever's the most valuable of the Higgins, Smith, McConkey, or Terry group with like Chase Brown or Jordan, and Chase Brown particularly because Jordan Mason, everyone expects him to get replaced at some point. So I package those two guys, and that's how I would upgrade. Like because you're talking about Brown. So I'm going for like a top. Like I would try to. It's really hard to get Drake London at this point. Like, but that type of wide receiver, right? So maybe you go package them up for like a Garrett Wilson if you like him, or you go into the range of. I don't really want to trade Terry though. Like Terry's the one I feel really good about, and people like the least. But yeah, so I would just pick your least favorite of the Higgins, Smith, Terry, package them with Chase Brown. See what you can get in like a team that needs a wide receiver, and go get like high end running back or wide receiver, like something along those lines.
I mean, I think if you could go, I'm probably trying to package Taylor here. I mean, I know when he's on the field, he's good, but injury is concerned, right? It's an ankle sprain. So if you can package like Higgins and Taylor and maybe go after like a Monty and just try to think of someone, maybe Adele, maybe Brian Thomas Jr. as well. I think that's a good package that you can upgrade both of them. With Taylor being out, it might be harder, but you also get someone that's going to be, that's consistent. Monty's in that offense. They just gave him an extension as well. So even in redraft, I think, he's used. They're going to get him that work. With Taylor, we don't know. We see these injuries happen, and that was my concern with him coming in, where people are like, oh, he's a top 5 back. Sure, he's on the field, but past 2 seasons, he hasn't been on the field, and that's been the biggest issue for him, and we're seeing it again. So for my thought is try to pivot off him, get a solid top 12, top 10 wide running back, and they use Higgins to get maybe – top 15, top 20 there because Higgins is in that offense, and Thomas I think eats, even though it might be scary with the Trevor Lawrence as quarterback. So
yeah, because like to your point, Monty and JT are basically identical in PPR points per game. Like it's 18.2 for JT, Monty's 18.1. Obviously, Monty is running hot on touchdowns, so it's going to come down a little bit. So if you're trading the Higgins or the Devonta Smith or the Terry group, I think you could package it into an upgrade because people view JT significantly above Monty. So like that's the way you go about doing it. You just got to pick your favorite like high-end wide receiver. Can you go get Chris Godwin? Like somebody like that. Can you do Mike Evans? Can you do DK Metcalf, who we talked about? I think like you probably could get Metcalf because they're going to be like, okay, I'll give you the Metcalf upgrade. Give me JT, right? So I think you could do like that. Monty's like a really high floor running back, and his usage has been really good. And that offense is going to continue to produce like 30 fantasy points a week for running back. So yeah, he's a really good redraft. I like Monty a lot more now.
His non-PPR flex: Mason, Pop, McConkey, Mooney, Waddle. I think
it's non-PPR. It's got to be Mason or Moon. It's going to be fireworks in the Atlanta game, so I would go Mason if you want the running back. Wide receiver, I'm going Mooney. He's the highest one I have ranked.
I would say Mooney, but non-PPR does hurt. But I think whatever Kirk's doing with him is working, so it's getting him, him the ball. So I think Mooney, Waddle too, man. If you could pivot off Waddle, I mean, when Tua comes back, maybe it's different. But right now, you can try to pivot off him, and that's if this is redraft 2, when Waddle comes back or when Tua comes back, sell on Waddle then, because it's like, all right, you have the rest of the season, but you may be able to get someone that gets excited when Tua's here. So
yeah, like I think he's gonna need a big game, but he'll have a big game. It will come. It's just capped. It just sucks, man. Like he's a good wide receiver. It's just just is what it is, unfortunately.
Half PPR rank these flex options: Douglas, Ty Chandler, Lockett, Gibson, Tracy. Let's see our rankings real quick here.
Well, so Aaron Jones is supposed to play, so I'm not really interested in Chandler. Let me see.
Douglas had a 67. Douglas Lockett.
I mean, I probably have Tracy the highest, to tell you the truth. Like he's at 45.
Yeah.
I don't know who I'm gonna have higher. Lockett, I like Lockett too, but yeah, I think for me, like Tracy's gonna be the highest. It's gonna be Tracy, Lockett, Tracy, Douglas, and half PPR. So sorry, I'm all over the place. Tracy, Lockett, Douglas is what I have. Gibson, and then Chandler. That's how I have them ranked. Unless there's an injury where we're getting more news on Aaron Jones. Like Aaron Jones is expected to play, so if that happens, all sorts of splitting work. If that changes, Chandler can vault up. Even though it's the Lions, I don't want to play running back against the Lions, so I'm going to pivot into the other wide receivers. And Tracy, I get it's Philadelphia, but that's a better
matchup. Excuse me. I do have Tracy, Douglas, Lockett, Chandler, and then Chandler. I'm trying to see where Gibson's is. Gibson's probably down. Yeah. And then Gibson. I mean, from Ramondre's.
Yeah, it's not. It's if no Ramondre, it makes it interesting, but I just don't trust the offense.
Right.
That's the hard thing. And Drake May is a rushing quarterback. He's not going to check it down a lot. So that's kind of my concern with Gibson. But I think Gibson's a really high upside, like low floor play. Like he's going to give you 5 or 20. Like there's no in between with Gibson is like this week, right?
Yeah, 100%. No, yeah. That's exactly what it is. I do like Gibson, Bobby. Tracy again with Ryan the hot hand, man. So as soon as he tells us not to, that's when you do it. But right now, if anything, try to pivot off him. Neil, coming back, if this changes anything for my QB question, I got McBride in tight end and Pop Douglas at flex. So either way, it would be stacked.
Oh, for the Drake May, Kyler. Yeah,
no,
I mean,
I'll do Kyler McBride.
Yeah, you just stack the tight end quarterback. Like it's the Chargers, so it's not the best, but yeah, I'd roll it. I mean, so he's flexing Pop. That's fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Yeah. Like I don't think it's gonna change because you have a stack either way you go. So I would just go with your highest. I mean, I was looking at my rankings and I just moved Drake May above Kyler, so fuck it, I'll go with Drake May. But like they're that same tier of guys where like I like Drake May a lot. The Jaguars defense is not as bad as it has shown. They've had a full 2 weeks there. I think they've adjusted, but yeah, like I like the upside Drake May. So you know what you're getting. Kyler's just been so up and down, man. Like it's just been so up with him. So for this week, I'm fine going with the Pop and Drake May and just roll with it. Like let's have a fun stack.
I think I have that fun, but I'm going McBride just because I know McBride's that target there. He'll get the volume, so you'll just benefit from Kyler there. That does help though. That does make it a little bit different, right? Having both of them there because you do get that double stack. But again, I think you have more chance with McBride and just you'll know he'll get fed. Appreciate you joining in, William. Unless you believe Douglas should be benched for Chase Brown, Wardy, or Tracy. I mean Tracy. I would say
Tracy. Douglas is not going to be high on the list because with Demario Douglas, it's very much more floor. I get it. He had a touchdown last week. That was his first touchdown of his career, folks. First touchdown of his career. Like he's not a touchdown producer. These things. Right. So I mean, you could get it. Like I like Douglas, but he's more of a floor play. He's never going to be inside my top 30 wide receivers. Just kind of how it goes around.
Yeah.
So
I thought he would start Brown over him.
Yeah, like I would also roll with the running backs, both of them over Pop Douglas this week.
Appreciate you joining in, Consensus Machine. I also said like and sub now. I appreciate
Appreciate
that.
you, man.
Also, Nino said appreciate, drop the sub and like.
All the
Guys,
support.
anyone watching, don't forget, like, comment, subscribe. We have content coming out daily from Dynasty, Redraft, Buy Low, Sell High, Devi, C2C, you name it, we're doing it. So continue to sub so you know when we're going live and, bring these questions. We love it. So appreciate you joining in. Conscious coming in though, saying I played Sutton in my 2 flex 12-team full
Rough.
PPR. I trust MHJ will play. Yeah, for sure. That was a goose egg.
My question is, why'd you put him like? So this gets into the strategy aspect. Stop playing flex players on Thursday night. If you're going to play those guys, put them into the starting spot. Like put them in their wide receiver spot, just right, so you give yourself more flexibility. You just handcuff your squad. But I know I've done that before, and I'll be like, I look at the roster,
but yeah. Skip it over. I actually one of my leagues the other day, I was like, shit, man, I thought I took all my guys out. But
yeah, right.
I think it was Olave where I was like, shit, I used Thursday night. So now I gotta choose Dubs or Watson. I already roll with Love. So you're starting in my 2 flex. So you have another guy.
Yeah, it's the second flex spot between Dubs and Watson because he has to start Gibbs, Walker, and Mason, which I would too. And then he's got Love, so it's either Watson or Dubs this week. Oh, Dubs is such a floor play, dude. Oh, let me see who I have higher. I think I got Christian Watson higher, but I need to double check.
Bro, I'd probably have like Christian Watson, like wide receiver 100. I don't like him. No,
I have I have Dubs as my overall 71 flex play. I have Christian Watson at 83, so I have Dubs a few spots above him. Like with the whole Watson stuff, it's just it's a floor play, dude. He just hasn't been healthy. He's not running our routes. Like even he only ran 71% of the routes last week, and that's the tough part where Dubs is on the field when Dubs is healthy. He runs all the routes. Like that's the thing. So like, yeah, it's tough. And like he ran 87% of routes last week. Like it's just much more likely. And you know what? I have Dubs above him, but with Christian Watson, it's so boom bust. Like I don't think you really need the Watson upside because you have Gibbs, you have Kenneth Walker, who we all love. You got Marvin Harrison Jr. Like I think Dubs is more of the foreplay, and it makes sense for your team.
Like I think he says he played him in wide receiver, but I have Dubs at RB 30, or excuse me, wide receiver 30. I have Watson at 39. I had Sutton at 40, so I had Watson just over him. I do have Watson over Waddle, Waddle this week. So
don't I'm not playing Waddle.
I think Dubs is the safer bet. I just think again, we talk about the boom bust. Guys, you're starting all those running backs because that's probably what's going to carry you. Mm-hmm. Curious I'm assuming that's what you have, so I would go Dubs in that flex position over it personally, or sit Mason, play all Packers, and hope for a shootout. Yeah, that's the risk with starting Mason, but even in the shootout, he still it is Wicks playing, right? I know he's banged up. It's Jaden Reed, if it's a shootout, is probably getting a lot of it. Watson's probably getting it, but I still think you want 4 or 5 receptions for at least 80, 90 yards, maybe. So I think Reed is the guy here for it's Packers and Houston, right?
Yeah.
So Houston doesn't have Lassiter, right? So that's big. They're out some running backs as well, or not some running backs, some linebackers. So this is gonna be over the middle type of things if Packers want to beat them. So this may be a Jacobs game. This is a Tucker Kraft type of game, where Watson. That's good, but I think it's more so Jaden Reed's going to have some opportunity here. Stingley will probably be on him, but you're still going to get some more matchups with him. So that's where I'm off on Watson.
This is the bottom comment is what the allure and also how the Christian Watson murders you because everyone's like, oh yeah, he's going to hit that ceiling shot. The problem is if he doesn't hit that ceiling shot, bagel. And that's not what we want to see, right? No. I don't mind chasing it. I think it really just depends because you clearly – like we kind of think similarly where I'm always like take the outside shot. I think it really just depends how you want to play this. You want the floor play, the safety of Dubs. It's still a lower safety, but if you want to shoot the moon and just go for the Christian Watson experience, you know what you're getting. But I'm still playing Jordan Mason above both of these wide receivers personally.
I will say too, where we're at this point of the season, depending on your record, right? Maybe you're on the fence to compete. Like you need to get this win to say, okay, we're halfway through. I'm competing. So maybe it's Watson to say, all right, shoot for the moon here, right? This isn't the safety. The safety is more towards the end of the season, right? Where it's like, okay, let's play this. So maybe right here you do play Watson and hope for it. But again, this could also be the reason of you saying, okay, maybe I'm not competing. I need to dial it back and make some trades to figure it out. So I could say that, these are the type of weeks where it's like if you have the high ceiling guy, you're playing them because, again, these are the weeks that are like going to separate, right? So you can go ahead and do that. Another zero.
Sutton put up a bagel. Like that's the thing. But yeah, if you're trading a lot in this game because Sutton put up a 0 for you and like projections are showing you significantly down because he gave you a 0, right? As opposed to his like 11 projected points. Yeah, like I'm fine taking a shot on Watson. Just know it could also be another 0. So that's the issue with Watson. It's just we need his snap share to increase, and I don't think it's going to increase because Wicks is also playing. So all 4 of these guys are going to eat into each other. Where Wicks and Watson are like kind of specialists. They're not in every time. It really focuses Jaden Reed, and then Romeo Doubs runs all the routes, and then it's also Tucker Kraft. It's so hard for these guys week in and week out. There's too many bodies, right? So you just know the floor with Wicks and Watson is super, super low each week. Doubs is the higher floor play each week. Like he's going to run more routes. It's just not the most efficient wide receiver. So it kind of is just like, meh. He's at 16% target share. It's fine. Yeah. It's something special. It's just kind of just like, you know what you're getting with Doubs. Like, he basically has 3 receptions in every game except 1. Like it's kind of what it is.
Got Nico and stacked with a handcuff RB. I played something knowing damn well. Yeah, that's right. It happens, man. It happens to the best of us. Yeah, Thursday night matchups are always scary, man. And they have been good, but I mean, historically they're bad for fantasy a lot of times too. So it's like, all right, if you can avoid them, try to. But Sutton did not gain anything was pretty surprising there as well. It's rising on Troy Franklin. I think Troy Franklin is good there as well. Yeah, he was still questionable.
They got nobody else there, so right. It's like, maybe Troy Franklin continues to take a step forward in that offense because as good as Sutton is, his skill set does not mesh with Bo Nix at all. Like he's a downfield, like big play machine. That's not what Bo Nix specializes in. You saw, that middle of the throw where he was splitting the wide receivers, just threw it to no man's land. I was like, because he got off his back foot, it was just ugly. Yeah. I was like, but he looks so much better rattler because the team looks better.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, he looks more confident too in it. So, Jose asked these 2 flex. I got Tracy, Garando, Kamani, Lockett, Douglas, Tracy, and Douglas.
Yeah. Garando, I'll throw him in a pinch if Mason doesn't play, but it looks like Mason's playing, so I'm not gonna do that. Yeah, Douglas and Lockett. I like Lockett a lot this week. This matchup's really good. So it's Tracy, and I think let me see who I have ranked higher. It might be Douglas, but it might be Lockett too.
Kamani I like, but you have to consider he put up a good game last week, but I think it was a 35 or 38 yard passing touchdown that gave him majority of his yards. So outside of that, I think it was 2.7 yards per carry or something, off his 4 carries. So you definitely don't want to shoot that quite yet. It looks good and you're excited. This is, if I'm trying to sell him right now for it, but this is an exciting opportunity for him. So I'll continue to, keep an eye on him. But I think Tracy showed it, actually getting volume, and then Douglas is there. So
I have Lockett 2 spots above Douglas this week. So that's the highest projected over under of the week, the Seahawks Falcons. Like I want pieces in that game, so I'm fine chasing Lockett.
Yeah. Well, that was a great game last week though too. So
all right.
Sweet.
You want to talk on some like teams or players we're targeting or anything like that? Or okay. So we can talk about, I think, some interesting teams to kind of target. Our teams with schedules that open up second half of the year, like we talked about the Jets. The schedule gets a lot better. Towards the fantasy playoffs, the teams that are playing from week 14 and 17, it's Dolphins, it's Jaguars, it's Rams, it's Bills. Like that's a really juicy matchup. And obviously this is like the Breece Hall aspect of it, where running backs are going to get insane amount of play and his work. Because I think with Breece Hall, people are a little bit down. But in the one game with Todd Downing as OC, he was pushed he was a true bell cow in every aspect of the word. So I think this is probably your last chance to buy Breece Hall before he goes nuclear again. So if you can get Breece Hall, I think it's a really good one. I don't mind Aaron Rodgers as a flex play now, about a streamable quarterback. And Devontae Adams, people are probably a little bit lower on him. So I think the Jets is a really good offense to target. Are there any Jets pieces that you're targeting or avoiding, or how do you feel about that?
I think your buy window for Garrett Wilson just opened up, right, with Devontae Adams going there. So I think that's an opportunity for him. Thing is, I'm working on something for FFU where it's wide receiver U on who it is on OSU or LSU. LSU
Yeah.
wide receivers have been top 5, top 10 wide receivers from Ohio State. They've been, your top 15, top 20. They've been just a little further. So I think right now people are higher on Garrett Wilson, but with the Adams, you're hoping for the scary thing. If you can get Brees, go buy low on Allen. It's opportunity there for him too. You get him a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Um,
I have that handcuff for sure.
for Brees, I mean, if you're able to trade like Brian Thomas and like Jacobs for that, would you do that?
Yes, because like as much as I like Jacobs, I don't think he's going to be. Well, let me rephrase that. You better have decent pieces on your bench if you're moving off of those two, right? If you're consolidating, but yeah, I want to get Brees, and then I would just take like an upside shot on their bench to kind of like do a 2-for-2 thing. So whoever is a significant downgrade at wide receiver, like if you're getting into that, like we talk about Pop Douglas range. Like if you get Pop Douglas as the throwing piece, like yeah, that would be fine. I would do that deal. Because personally, like what I saw from week 1 and Todd Downey's uses previously, how he uses running backs, I like Brees a lot. And then, like, I know it was the Bills. The Bills bleed fancy points to running backs. Like, that's the one matchup. But overall, his usage is the takeaway where if this stays, he's going to be like a top 3 running back rest of the season for me. Jacobs is like a back end RB1. Brian Thomas Jr. is like a borderline. He's like a wide receiver, too. Really good, but like he's not a high wide receiver run. So I think, yes, personally, I would do that.
Fair enough. Yeah, you talk about matchups. I've been saying Pollard's my buy right now. You go ahead and get him wherever you can. I think Daniel Jones, is possibly as long as Nabers in that offense. I mean, his schedule rest away is pretty good as well. You have Philly this week, then you have at Pittsburgh, then he's Washington, at Carolina, then they have a bye. Tampa's, they're vulnerable against the passing game as well. At Dallas, New Orleans, Baltimore, scary in the playoffs, but then at Atlanta, Indy. If you need super flex, quarterback too, I think Daniel Jones has high upside. Definitely raises more when Nabers is there. But the bright side is when Nabers is out, he actually still looked good when it was Wandale and Darius Slayton there as well. He was still getting the ball out to them. Not as great, but you're still seeing it. So I think that's an opportunity where he has that name where it has a stint. So he's a quarterback you can buy on the low, but gives you high upside as a QB2 moving down. Again, that strength of schedule looks pretty weak for him. So, Nabers healthy again elevates that, but I'm still comfortable with it. If you could pivot off of maybe you can go, maybe you could trade Tua for Daniel Jones plus, and that way you just have it because Tua, he's supposed to come back, man, but I'm no doctor, so I'm not going to necessarily equate, but with these concussions and the way he's getting rocked, like these concussions look bad. I'm glad they're taking time for him to be healthy, but these concussions look worse and worse each time. And to me, I'm like, bro, when's the hit going to come where he's just not going to be able to get up? Like he's just going to be paralyzed or whatever. That's how bad they look. And it's unfortunate we have to talk about that, but that's how bad they look, where to me, it's concerning that they're eventually going to pivot off of him. So if you can trade him because there is upside because of his weapons for Daniel Jones plus, so maybe you get Daniel Jones and a couple seconds, or maybe Daniel Jones in the first. You never know. But I think those are moves you can try to do as well.
Yeah, you would. I think for Tua specifically, like he needs to show it in one of those games to get that type of deal done. But yeah, like the whole issue with the Giants is like they could, if it all falls apart, which it could still fall apart, like they're kind of hanging on. Like they could go to Drew Lock at some point. That's the one concern that's still there. Like if we get towards the end of the season, their season's over. They're like, all right, let's see what happens, Drew Lock. That's the one area of concern I have for Daniel Jones. But like he's been decent. Like he hasn't been a bad quarterback. It's just he's not that good. So yeah, if you can get the 1 plus of Daniel Jones, I would love that. I just think Tua needs to show it first that he's back healthy, he's not injured, and then I think you could definitely entertain that discussion.
Sure, but yeah, that'll be one of my bigger guys to target. We have a few more questions here. Where are we at here?
Yeah.
What's up, Mello? MHJ or BTJ at flex?
I still probably have Harrison.
I'm probably Harrison is what I have.
Even though it's the Chargers, I get it.
My rankings.
So with the uncertainty from Robert Harrison Jr., I'm fine playing Brian Thomas Jr. because they're going up against Carolina and they bleed fantasy points. So I'm just fine sticking with Brian Thomas Jr. and rolling with that because you're not going to know. And like it's an early game, so you have most people are like West Coast, we're not going to be up for the start of that game. So you kind of have to make the decision early in the morning, right? So for me personally, like I'll go Brian Thomas Jr. And just not worry about the issues with Harrison if he plays or if he doesn't play. Even though he's expected to play, I'm fine. I'll take the upside shot BTJ this week.
Yeah, I think I have BTJ. I have him at 21 and Harrison Jr. at 25.
Oh, sorry, I mixed up the teams. It's New England,
So
so it's not a great pass matchup, but
yeah,
it's fine. Like I think you just need to make that decision beforehand. If the news comes out before, which that's the whole issue, I don't know if it's coming out until tomorrow with Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm fine going BTJ, but if we get news on Marvin Harrison Jr. he's going to play, then it will shift. So it just sucks. It's an early morning game, so
yeah,
you have to make a decision.
Yeah, those 6:30 games don't help us in fantasy NFL. Stop them. I just put them out like PM their time, so it's different time. I don't know. Just got offered a trade for Debo. He offered Keenan Allen, Rico Dowdle, and Chuba.
I probably am not taking this deal. In redraft, sure, I'll do this deal. Dynasty, no, because Keenan Allen is looking like the potential third, fourth option of that offense. It's really tough. You know what you're getting out of Debo. Rico is super we like him, but it's just the floor is zero. Chuba is going to get replaced at some point by Jonathan Brooks. Like it might run out through this year, but I would personally just keep Debo. I think he's just the best asset in the deal. So I know we're consolidating into 3-for-1 type stuff, but I would only do this deal if you needed a bunch of pieces. And if that's the case, then I would more look into like being blowing up my roster if that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah, I don't like it because the floor with those guys is so low. You know what you're getting out of Debo. If you were getting a better wide receiver instead of Keenan Allen, like a higher end wide receiver, I would have more interest because you'll get Chuba Hubbard for the rest of the year. And Rico is an upside shot, so I don't mind it if you get it's just Keenan Allen's what worries me. Like that's the whole issue part of this deal. If you move into the wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 range, sure. I just have Keenan Allen lower than that. What do you think of this deal?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a horrible trade. I think you keep Debo here. I like the thing with Rico, man. The offense just looks bad. Like we knew they didn't have a running game. Rico was becoming that running game, but they're just not looking good on offense in general. So with that, Rico scares me. Even though he does look like he's the RB1 there. Chuba I do like, but yeah, what happens? Does Jonathan Brooks come in and they just take it all away? Yeah, redraft here. So I like Debo, but it leads me to a question: do you trade? Are you trying to target Ayuk then? Because Ayuk, I think, is slipping down as far as opportunities here. So is he a target for you, or is he more of a sell high or buy low for you?
It's all price dependent with like the guys in that offense, but yeah, like similar to Chris Olave, if they continue to not produce for you, people get less and less bullish. And so like Jen's point, like it's redraft. Yeah, like if you had Josh Downs in that deal in redraft, I'd be much more interested in that deal because you're getting a wide receiver I'm much more confident will produce throughout the year. So like I could entertain that because you're getting Chuba for the next, I don't know, month, maybe give or take, if not longer. He's going to be awesome in that role. So it's just the whole Keenan Allen aspect. If we can flip it, sure. But yeah, like I love Debo. So you're talking to a guy that's been in who's always have a bias towards Debo. So it's really hard for me to, shift off of that personally.
That's fair. I like him too. I think he does it. It's actually about where his jersey and then going Cup. Hopefully Cup plays tomorrow. Dynasty full PPR 1.7 for tight end. Superflex start 11.
12 team. Yeah.
I'm 4-8 team. Collar, Caleb, J. Hill, Jalil, Rome, McBride, Jake Collar plus Michael Wilson for May. I would.
Yes.
I would do that. I would do that.
I'm looking at your running back room. It's not good. And where you're at, your team's not going to contend this year. That's pretty clear. But you have nice pieces. You have Rice, you have BTJ, you have Reed. You're really close. And you have dude, you can consolidate. It's start 11. So I get why you have the depth, but Rome, you have a lot of these young pieces, which are not going to produce, but they're really valuable. Rice, Rome, Reed's really good. Hawkinson, when he comes back. Yeah. I think the uncertainty with Kyler and his market value, I'm fine making this deal. And then you could take that first that you're banking. I would try to package it one or two of these guys into that running back room. Because this overall squad is pretty good. You have Caleb still. You have Drake May. Those are your two high-end quarterbacks that you run around. And then you just need some running backs on the squad. And I think you could actually be. I don't know how many running backs are starting spots on this team. I'm assuming it's one or two. But overall, your wide receiver room is carrying it. It looks really good. You got two tight ends. So it's 1.75. So you're basically starting both of those guys, right? McBride and Hawk week in and week out when they come back. So yeah, I take this deal.
Yeah, I would too. I think this is a smash deal, especially because you have Caleb. So you have Caleb May at Superflex, right? But still, I think that's good. 2 RB starting, he says. but I think that's where you need the help, right? Is the RB with Justice Hill and Jaleel. It's not very
That's the
sexy. I
problem.
mean, so you could trade Kyler Wilson for May in the first, and then honestly, if you wanted to, I'd probably try to trade Hawkinson or
In 1.75 tight end
oh yeah,
premium, like
that's true. That's heavy.
what I would do with this squad, you're 4-8. I don't know about your max points for. It's probably lower end where you're at. I would try to find really cheap, usable, disposable running backs like a Chuba Hubbard, those type of guys that are not valued at all in Dynasty. Go get one of those guys on the cheap. See if they can help your running, like your team compete. But if you're looking to like push it for next year, totally fine just waiting because I get the uncertainty with Caleb and Drake May. Yeah, you traded all your backs. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, just play it for next year. It's fine. Like your team is set up for next year, like really well. Like I would not be worried about your team. So your banking picks, your team theoretically gets worse, right? Because you're moving that extra asset in Wilson, who's going to take points off of it. And like I know people love Kyler, I love Kyler, but yeah, like this is a good long-term move for you. So I'm fine doing that. You're banking another first-round pick. There's only so many of those, right? So yeah, and so just keep tanking. You're doing a good job. Like I like the roster you're building.
And you're really getting, I mean, that's a super flex. You're getting a QB for a QB. So in a sense, you're thinking this is Michael Wilson for that 25 first.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's market value based, and people significantly like the whole thing with Drake May is that we only have one sample size. If he was doing this all year, their values would be very similar. If not, like May might be valued above Kyler, right?
Yeah.
So we're getting the uncertainty surrounding Drake May still, which is why you're getting this asset and you're getting someone giving you a mid first, which mids have a lot of way to go. So that team getting Kyler, like if Kyler does not outperform what Drake May is doing for that team, then like it could actually be a really good pick for you because you just, you know what I'm saying? So you're just banking it. Overall, I think you're gonna like this deal long term. It really comes down to people about Drake May. Like he's freaking wild horse. He's Josh Allen basically the way he plays. It's gonna be a roller coaster with him, but he's gonna produce fantasy points. So yeah, personally in Dynasty, like I love this move.
And the quarterbacks, the running backs in next year's class. I mean, you have a top 6 pick, you could get a solid running back. You know, if you have first round picks next year, you get solid running backs. So I think that can definitely transition it. You know, you're just hoping Caleb and May definitely just ball out too.
Yeah,
so.
you got good pieces. And then if Polk does not show out, like if he shows out a little bit, you might want to look to trade Polk because he's more of a filler piece for you. He's not likely going to start for you. So just keep an eye on Polk. He's like dangerously trending into the kind of the bust range we don't want to see. I like him a lot. We need him to show more. So hopefully he comes on strong. But you know, if he has one good game, someone's interested in him, I would be fine selling him.
Yeah, 100%. Redraft, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. There you go. You get Janty on that squad. Woo, baby.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get
we
contain to this.
You're probably gonna need to move a couple of these pieces for non-producers because Jaden Reed's the guy that's absolutely just smashing right now. McBride's scoring a lot. Like those are the two guys you're probably gonna want to move in a potential deal, or Hawkinson when he comes back to full health. Like if he's fully healthy and he's just scoring a lot of points, like that could hurt you in the one-on-one discussion. So you might need to look to trade one of those guys for more like pieces that are not producing or struggling. Get some bonus, like, you know, insulate for next year. Because the one-on-one's tough. Like there's probably already been some teams that are going for the one-on-one, like the way we talked about that.
Right.
Oh, so they not do max points for? Is it just points for? Oh, this is crazy. This is so much easier then because if they're not doing max points for. The loophole in Dynasty. All right, yeah. You're good then.
Yeah,
because if you guys are going you're just going by record, then okay, that makes more sense with points. Yeah, so okay, that makes sense. Yeah, then do it.
I will. And then this guy says Dodson traded Amon-Ra Ferguson for Reed, Debo, and B-Rob in redraft.
Yeah, hell yeah, I'm doing that deal. The whole thing is I have Reed dangerously close to Amon-Ra. Personally, for me. Oh, they're trading those guys for Amon-Ra.
No, they would get.
They would be. Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I would do that deal. That's fine. Because, like, as much as I like Chase Brown and Eckler, like, Brian Robinson's an upgrade over those guys when he's healthy.
Who's your tight end here, though? Because you're losing Ferguson, who I think is a good piece for Dallas offense. So, I mean, if you're dropping from Ferguson and Henry, I think that plays a lot of value there, too. But you are getting solid pieces. So,
yeah, you're getting 3, like, really good pieces.
Yeah.
And Reed has the potential to be, like, a wide receiver 1 this year. So, like, I like all those guys. You know, Debo, he's a high-end wide receiver too. B-Rob's like top 16 running back.
And I assume you're getting Brian Robinson just to have the safety behind Connor, because Connor and Alchain, if all things healthy, he's your starter. But like, I
Both
don't
those
think
guys, yeah.
you have to
Like
think about like who are we benching, right? Because I don't think you necessarily need all those pieces with it. So I think where your tight ends at is a big key for me if I want to do
yeah,
that or not.
it just depends on like if they
Oh,
have any
Pitts.
decent tight ends. Yeah, Pitts
Yeah,
is a downgrade, but he's usable, and
yeah,
that it's just it's definitely a downgrade. I'll just say that, but it
yeah.
can survive it.
Agreed. And then based on regular season record, those are always great. That's why we moved to.
That's
That's why we
Yeah,
went to max
that's such
point
a
fours.
loophole because teams like good teams will just be taking. I'll be like,
Yeah,
all right, but yeah, take advantage of the record. Let's do it. Yeah,
yeah. We
you
went
got a
to
shot.
max points 4
You better
because of
start
that.
benching everybody then if you want that 101 because
Right.
the record 4-8, like yeah, which means they have the median scoring and yeah, I get it. Yeah,
So, yeah, man, that's the benefit of playing different dynasties, right? You play against the median, you play max point 4, you play just being able to tank. Either way, there's definitely options. I'm in one league where the bottom 4 is a lottery, so even if you try to tank, it's like you may not even get the 101. It's a 25% chance. So definitely different things there for it. HD, which two RBs would you start this week between Brian Robb, Alchain, Connor, Chase Brown? Robinson if he's playing, right?
yeah, if he's healthy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Robinson if he's playing.
it's a juicy matchup against this. Like it's good. So, the first two running backs.
Yeah,
I'd go Chain and I have Connor. I think Connor's close, but I have those two guys above him. It just really comes down to Brian Robinson for me. So that's what.
if he plays or not.
Yeah,
yeah.
And I mean, it's the Chargers. It's not a good matchup, so it's kind of just like we're a little bit lower on Connor this week. Where's Robinson?
I think I have Robinson at 17, Alchain at 19, and Connor at 20. So
yeah, because they're freaking playing Carolina, so it's like that team just bleeds fantasy points. So I want to play him. I don't mind Eckler. Like I would, if you had Eckler, like I would play him over Chase Brown this week. But yeah, I have Achane over him. I'm fine playing because Indy's defense is atrocious, so I'm playing Achane. But you can go Connor. That's fine.
Agreed. Who said let's trade Kyler Murray for?
A little context would be helpful here. What's your like? What are your strengths? What's your weaknesses? Is this redraft? Is this dynasty? Because if this is one QB redraft, it's a lot harder to trade Kyler Murray. If it's super flex dynasty, like we talked about, someone just got Drake May in like a mid first for him, right? So yeah. I would look. Let's say it's redraft, right? Like one QB. You got to shoot to those like mid level, like a T Higgins type, maybe. Like you can maybe get him. I don't think you can anymore. Devontae Adams, Ayuk, maybe those type of wide receivers. The running backs in this range, like maybe you could do Brian Thomas. You could maybe do Brian Thomas. Like I think that's a good one to try and target. Brian Robinson. Excuse me. I think those would be fine. Is there anybody in that range like you'd be looking for?
Yeah, I mean it depends what your wide receivers are too, right? But if you can trade him for upside in a Brian Thomas, maybe you can go get a Garrett Wilson, as well. And plus, with it being super flex, you can definitely get a plus for that. So those would be guys I would look for. There's upside in Murray, but I'm trying to, if you can pivot off of him, because I think his value is really heavy there. So you can definitely try to pivot off with him and still get an upgrade at the court. Not an upgrade, but still someone relevant. Maybe Caleb Williams as well. One QB redraft. I also have good receivers. But my running backs are Mason, Aaron Jones, and
It's
Hunt.
just the entire hurt core. I mean, you got Kareem Hunt. He's fine. He's filling. He's doing okay.
I'll just trade Hubbard for Love. So, yeah, I mean, go get Myrie. Go get. Looking at my running backs here, I mean, maybe go get. You probably get Brees.
Brian Robinson would be the guy to target. Like he's the cheapest. He's going to be the best for you. Like that's the guy that stands out above all these guys for some reason. People are lower on him, but man, his role is great. I'm curious, like what running backs do you think in that range outside of him?
Outside Robinson?
Yeah, like because Brian Robinson's kind of like a mid-range, like high-end RB2. Like people value him lower. Like you could do Achane coming off the injury and like the uncertainty with him. I think he's a good target. We're just looking at like buy low options, I think, because you have to do that with Kyler, right? So you got to go down the list a little bit.
I mean, even if you talk about RB2s, you probably get Monty. I would be happy with that. I think Monty's definitely going heavy with them. And we know even with Gibbs there, he's getting the work as well. So I would be able to do that. Here's another one from Master God. Thanks for joining in here. Don't forget to subscribe, everyone that is watching us today. Kareem Hunt and Jameson Williams for JT.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll do that. And I'll do that in all formats because when you're gonna struggle with JT for a little bit coming back of this injury, like he's not going to be fully himself. So due to where Jameson Williams is, like he's a flex play, like week in, week out. Kareem Hunt's a borderline RB2, like he's usable. So depending on your roster, I'm assuming you're looking to consolidate because you have pieces, right? Because that's what you're trying to make a move for. Yeah. I think it's like a buy low and Jonathan Taylor. Like I'm fine with this. Would you do it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think Kareem Hunt, sell him while you can, man. He has the value now, but as soon as Pacheco comes back, the value's gone. So this is someone you sell high. And then Williams, I like it, but we still have Iron Raw there, right? So yeah, go get Taylor. I would do that.
Yeah, I do say Jamo's going to go off in this game, but it's long term. I think you what you're getting in JT, and like down the stretch, if they're in playoff competition, they're just going to feast them. So yeah. It's a good target. Like this is what we talk about with buying low with players. It's usually injuries or situations that are going against them. Like that creates the buy low for these. Like both Achane and Taylor were top 10 running backs going into the year. Like super high. People loved them. They're dealing with issues now. People are like, I don't know what to do with them. So yeah, like this is where the buy low comes in.
Yeah, you take advantage of them. You gotta know your market and when to buy on those guys.
For sure. Let's see.
But sweet. Good show.
Yeah.
Good questions in there. Players to target. I mean, this is the time of the season, right? Where we're midway through. We're almost we're exactly halfway through, week 7 to our fantasy football playoffs. Week 14 is our final week in fantasy football before we start those playoffs in week 15. So this is your opportunity to make those moves is there. Otano has something up. What's up, man? Thanks for joining in here. Ask the opinion on Cooper Kupp. Any replacements I would have played before his game, so I don't know if I should put him.
Yeah, like I think with Cooper Kupp, you got to play him if you have him. Like the upside attached to Cooper Kupp is monumental, and his usage, he still has the highest usage of any wide receiver in the NFL. Like I know we love Malik Nabers, but like it's absurd. So if you have Cooper Kupp, I'm playing him. Like that's just the way I'm looking at it. I get it. There's injury issues, but he's expected to play, so just fire him up because that's why you've kept him this entire time.
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't matter. Every week you should try to have pivot options there too. So that's something you want to do as well.
Yeah.
Joining in.
Potentially.
There he is.
Oh, there we go. Somebody got me on screen. I only got a few minutes. I'm on my lunch at work, and I thought I'd join in. What's up?
We're about to wrap up right now. But
Perfect. Just what I do. I show up at the end of the assignment and get the A with everyone else. Thank you
said I'm closing it down, baby.
Hey, is anybody else having a weird phenomena at this point in the season? I have about half my teams where no matter what I do, I'm going to win easily. And the other half, I don't even have enough players to start a healthy lineup. It's really the one most interesting thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, week 7 is an interesting spot to be with all the injuries and the buys and all the fun stuff. It's like, yeah.
All my injuries are on all on one team though. They're all mixed together. It's hilarious.
Yeah. it's not fun for those teams, but yeah.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, Motano, he is playing Cooper Kupp C4. Not, we don't know if he is, but he's trending to play C starting. But I agree, Aaron. Yeah. I think that's where we're at right now in the season. Is you have guys out, some star players out too, where it's like you have guys to play, but it's like these are just my bye week fillers. I don't want to play them on a week to week basis there. So
yeah, just like for Moth and you, just pay attention to it before the early stuff comes out. We don't hear anything otherwise. I'm just gonna treat him like he's playing.
I've got lineups where Joe Mixon is on my bench and I can't even flex him, and then other leagues where my RB1 is Tyler Goodson. It's
glorious.
Okay, great. Can I share these players between teams? Is that how it works?
Yeah. They're
Sleeper should allow that. See if they have it. You're gonna find out.
Yeah.
2 teams are playing Kyler Murray. Mondo asks, my team is Love, Murray, Mason, Hunt, Jones, Pacheco, Brooks, Jefferson, Tyreek, Reed, Odunze, Lazard, Shakir, Kincaid, 12-team tight end premium. Should I look to trade anyone? Looks like you need a tight end.
Yeah,
Mason
gotta
Hunt,
go.
Sure. All right.
Take it easy, man. Thanks for joining.
Have a good show. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, sounds good. I will say Mason and Hunt, right? Because those guys are the two that have the uncertainty. Unless somebody really values Pacheco, you have so much uncertainty in that running back room. It's absurd. Pacheco, Brooks, Jones, Hunt, Mason. It's every running back. Kincaid. I made a deal in my home league 2 days ago. It was I traded Kincaid for Njoku plus Shaheed in the Dynasty League, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. I also love Njoku, so there's a little bit of bias, but using the market value to get a free Shaheed, I was like, sure, let's do it. So I think Kincaid's a good guy to pivot off of in a premium league right now because people don't know how to value him, and he's still top 6 tight end. So that guy as well for me. Is there any of those wide receivers you'd look to move, or what would you else do with this team?
I mean, you could probably try to trade Tyreek for someone less, right? Maybe Tyreek for Harrison, right? I know Tyreek's good, but I think that's a good move for a dynasty team. You could probably Odunze. I know people like Odunze a lot, but I mean, I'm bigger on Brian Thomas. So if you can go after him, I think that's pretty fair to go straight up. And Lazard, right? Lazard's value accidentally plummeted. So Mason and Lazard for
can't do anything with Lazard.
Try to go get Chuba Hubbard at that point or something. And
I mean it's kind of support that. So 100%.
So DJ, last minute question: how much do you value Ochain moving forward?
So to be frank, I still love him. Like I get it. It's all been a disaster in Miami. The hope is that when Tua comes back, the offense centralizes and is back to what it was early in the year, right? So, I mean, unless there's something we hear otherwise, I don't think we should be too worried about him. I think if you held him or if you bought him, like you're gonna ride this out and see how it goes. Unless someone's throwing you like an absurd offer, like I'm fine just rolling with HM personally. Are you more looking to sell him, or are you just gonna ride him out?
I think you have to ride him out. I mean, if you can't sell him, but you want to pivot towards something bigger, right? So if you're selling him you can get Gibbs for whatever reason, sure. I mean, but I don't think anyone's buying him for an elite. Like I'm only trading him for a top because his upside is there when he's on the field, and it definitely raises once Tua is there as well. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I like it, but if you can get some good value for him, because a lot of people value him super highly more than me, so I would trade that.
He's still a top 7 dynasty wide receiver. But I will say, if you can move Ochain into like Kenneth Walker in dynasty, make that move because it's like setting up for Kenneth Walker to smash. People are still worried about Kenneth Walker, and I think he's the guy we should get before everyone realizes how good he's been and how good his role is. Because I have Walker above HN in dynasty, which is crazy. If you would have told me that in the offseason, I'd be like, you're nuts. But it's what it is.
For sure. No, I agree. Well, dude, guys, nice to see you. Thanks, Mega Brick. Full PPR start Judy, Pittman, Juju, or Slayton.
Juju. I'm not doing the other guys.
Juju, I think you're safest.
Yeah.
Like, Judy, I want to see him as the one, man. I like it, but it's just the opposite. If Winston's there, it's different. Pittman, I'm not a fit. If Flacco's there, it's different. Slayton, I mean, as long as Nabers there, don't start Slayton right now. When Nabers isn't there, get Slayton in there.
Juju all day. Yeah. Juju.
Yeah.
Which is 2024. We're talking about Juju. Imagine that.
Appreciate you tuning in. Would you trade? Last week I traded Pittman, Dale, Ochain for Hill and Jones.
If this is redraft, I like this. There is, I like you're buying into injury with Aaron Jones, which sucks because you don't know when he's like how healthy he's going to be, but it's a bad matchup he's playing. And Tyreek, like when that offense centralizes in 2 weeks, and if like it shows up with Tyreek that we're getting, like I 100% understand this move. Yeah, they're 4-2, so just wait until Tua comes back. Like I get it. That's the time you like buy into them.
It's redraft, you said.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I found that on the move. Tracy, Kirk, Gibson, Hopkins.
Tracy, I think is the safest.
Hopkins is the one I have the least interest in. So I'd say Tracy, Kirk, Gibson, Hopkins.
Yeah. I don't want anything to do with the wide receivers in Tennessee there.
It's gross, man. It's so bad.
Should I try to trade then Brian Thomas and Jacobs for Kenneth Walker and Garrett Wilson?
I mean, if you can get that deal done, hell yeah. Like I love Brian Thomas, but like we know Garrett Wilson's really good wide receiver, right? And you're getting Kenneth Walker, who you can make a case he's the RB1 rest away. Like that's how impactful he's been in that offense. They're gonna have to run it, like play a ton of snaps offensively with how bad they are defensively and everything going on. So yeah, like ride the Kenneth Walker way, buy into it for sure.
I'm probably try to see if he can add something on just to try to scare him with Adams being there that Wilson won't get much targets, right?
Like, I don't know, man. Brian Thomas Jr. is wide receiver 1. Adams is the wide receiver 3 on his own team.
Yeah, right.
Al Lazard's outscored you.
For sure, right? There you go. I'm going to try to do that, see what that guy says. No, that was a good show, man. We went a little over an hour there. But we'll be back for our starts and sits for tomorrow. An hour before kickoff. Jeremy's actually going to be at the game, so he won't be doing the 6:31. For the game. So make sure your lineups are checked tonight for your guys coming in. Should coming back. I have Jaden Daniels and J Love. Who should I trade?
I mean,
Tua. You should trade Tua.
If this is
for
one QB, like sure trade Jordan Love somebody, but outside of that, if this is like super flex, like I'm just keeping both of those guys. Jay Daniels is like QB1 or so like QB2. Like I'm not trading Jay Daniels.
I think he has Tua too. Like he has
Yeah,
Tua,
so like if you
yeah.
can get anything for
So,
Tua, but isn't this is the redraft league, right? Or is this? Yeah,
yeah. No, he
good
just
luck with anything on
first
Tua.
one.
If it's dynasty,
Yeah.
I'll just take a first for Tua. Like I'll just be fine with that. Like, if it's dynasty, just give me a first for Tua.
Praise you, DJen. Yeah, no, trade Tua. I'm all off on Tua. Trade him while you can. I even think this year they probably get a quarterback in the draft. But start shit till tomorrow, an hour before kickoff, the 9 a.m. games, the games in the US. We won't be doing it for the UK. So make sure you are checking your lineups to make sure those guys are in and out. That game's at 6:30 a.m. Pacific, right? I think. So really early for you. So make sure you are checking those lineups. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. For me, Jesse, Jeremy, Aaron, we are the FFU. We appreciate all of you guys always joining us. And until next time, peace.